What is the most fricked up crap you've seen at a party? Once, I walked out of the bathroom at a party. To my right, outside the glass screen door, I see a girl who looks like she has just thrown up and is now sitting and crying in a ball. I then look to my left and I see that on the couch is her boyfriend getting a hand job from one of our gay friends. Unexpected ending. A friend of mine used to bite the tops off of beer cans as a party trick. One night he got so drunk he placed it wrong and ripped out his entire tooth root and all. There was blood everywhere, but he didn't feel anything until the next day. Christmas family gathering, 2009. Walked into the supposedly empty downstairs living room in my great-grandmother's house in search of my sweater. I found my two cousins having quiet sex. It was dark. I didn't turn the light on, as I had seen my sweater from the open door. I walked into the room, not turning my head in their direction, grabbed my sweater, and walked out. They came upstairs again at dinner time. To this day, they probably think that I didn't notice. I guess if you can't keep it in your pants, keep it in the family. A half blacked out guy getting furiously jacked off by a naked girl in the kitchen, using what looked like shampoo as lube. The dude was covered in Cocoa Puffs. There were suds everywhere. Dang, that's gonna burn. Everyone knows you gotta use conditioner. 3 freshman girls went into our one bathroom crying. They came out after they all shaved their heads with my roommate's pube trimmers. It was certainly crazier than usual. Feeling cancer is involved in here somewhere. I once was at a party that broke down into a stealing frenzy. The host must have passed out or something. Favorite moment. Some guy raids the host's freezer and pulls out a full frozen chicken. Runs out the door into the rain. 5 seconds later runs back into the house only to steal an umbrella before leaving again. I went to a party and the same thing happened. He'll never forget one kid who snapped up a life-size Shaq cardboard cutout and walked out of a raging house party and down the street like it was no big deal. The host's parents' wedding rings got stolen, along with their entire CD collection and dozens of other items. Very drunk girl takes her shirt off and starts showing everyone her boobs even though she was just drunkenly ranting about her boyfriend who is in the army. Her friends then take her and put her in a room in hopes that she won't embarrass herself anymore. She came back down an hour later with no pants on and began finger blasting herself on the kitchen floor. I found out later that she didn't even have a boyfriend, so it's just a mess of confusing. The party was being held at a house with 3 levels. On each level of the house there was a deck where you could see the other level's deck straight up or down. There is a big guy minding his own business sitting on a couch on the first deck. A guy on the 3rd floor deck was balancing or something and falls over the railing and lands directly on top of the big guy minding his own business. Bruises, but no serious injuries. Not sure if this was before or after this incident, but the big guy minding his own business had a cinder block thrown at his head by some pee-off co-worker. Big guy stopped for a second, touches his head, looks at blood on his hand, and proceeds to run after the guy and beat the bejesus out of him. He may be indestructible. Girl passed out in a mini dress who crap herself. The dress had ridden up so all you saw was a bare butt crack filled with the unspeakable. I was at a party one night where everyone was drinking heavily and this one guy passed out in the basement. We kinda just left him there, but he eventually peed himself, which made the basement smell like pee and fricked up the carpet. The party host was pee as heck, so he and some other people decided to drag the passed out guy outside. This was a walk-in basement. Next to the wall all the other drunk guys were using to pee on when they didn't want to go into the bathroom. Fast forward a few hours and most of the people forgot about the passed out guy next to the pee wall. A group of extremely drunk guys go outside and begin urinating. At this point one of them notices the passed out guy from earlier is still passed out there on the ground. So midstream he decided it would be funny to spray the drunk guy with a bit of his pee. The other drunk guys see this and also think it would be hilarious to pee on the passed out guy. So I'm sitting across the yard and I see 6 guys all pee on this passed out guy. And it wasn't just a little tinkle, it was 6 full streams spraying all over the passed out guy's body. His mouth was open and everything. Got in his hair, eyes, all over his clothes, etc. Then another one of the drunk guys decided to take a crap right next to him. As he was being pee on, the passed out drunk guy was kinda coming back into consciousness and smiling, rubbing the pee off his face. It was literally the most fricked up thing I've ever seen at a party. TLDR, watch the passed out guy get a 6-man golden shower and a steamy chocolate dessert. Edit. I just realized per the title of the thread this was also the most fricked up crap I've ever seen at a party. Dude was living the life. I usually have to pay about $300 for one guy, never mind 6. Back when I was pretty young, like 14, me and a group of friends went to this party at the house of some guy a few years older than us. Of course it was his parents' house, but the party was held in this huge undeveloped basement. It was just one big space with no walls. Anyway, we felt equally cool and out of place for being around all these older kids, so we were just laying low, drinking our cheap liquor. It was the kind of party where you could tell not a lot of people knew each other and there were groups from every imaginable clique at the time. That is, grunge kids, hip hoppers. It was the 90s. At some point the lights turn off. We hear some breaking glass and the lights come right back on to reveal some screaming girl who had just been smashed with a bottle. Before you know it, lights go off again, more smashing and another bottle has been thrown. This happened like 6 or 7 times in a row, and it didn't take long before the 50 or 60 kids in this basement are stampeding in horror. Every time the lights go on a new person has blood running down their face and more kids are running around in blood-soaked socks as their feet get cut up on the glass that's being smeared around the floor. The reason it took everyone so long to figure out what was happening is that no one was standing near the light switch at the bottom of the stairs. Eventually, after enough bottles had been thrown, someone finally found out what was going on. Some goth kids had set themselves up in a small furnace hot water heater room that was built into the far corner of the basement. This room also contained the electrical breaker, so they had figured out which breaker controlled the lights, and for whatever reason, they decided to frick some people up just for a laugh. They would kill the lights and then pop out and whip a bottle into the crowd and duck back in, so it wasn't apparent to everyone else who was throwing bottles. As we were leaving there was all kinds of yelling and screaming in that room as a bunch of guys confronted them in there and probably beat the crap out of them. All I know is, us 14-year-olds felt like we had entered a whole new world outside of the one we had known up to that point in our lives. Holy crap, those kids throwing bottles into the crowd are buttholes. I think the most fricked up thing was the resident naked guy. Nathan would be drinking his beer, chilling on the couch, and only in his boots. It wasn't even anything sexual. He was just really comfortable with nudity. Canadian punks in winter have no fear of shrinkage. Friend of mine had a roommate who'd do that when he wanted people to get out of his house. 2 AM rolled around and all of a sudden he'd just start wandering around naked. It was pretty effective. Saw a girl lose a glow stick in her butthole. Watched a different girl blow bang 8 guys for some ecstasy and coke. Walked in on a dude getting a blumpkin from another guy. Seen multiple people passed out in pools of pee vomit crap. The late 90s early 00 rave scene was crazy. Edit. I remembered one more this morning. A naked girl standing next to the DJ pulled her bloody tampon out and swung it above her head like a helicopter. DJ threw down his headphones and noped the frick out of there. Her friends had to try and restrain her while trying to not take a bloody tampon to the face. Went to a party with a few buddies. One of my friends has a tendency to think he is a huge heavyweight, and he's not even a little bit. Around 12:30 he's completely crap-hosed, and while at this house party we were at, he starts freaking out. Why, you ask? Because he forgot to mow the lawn after his dad told him to. We try to calm him down, and he disappears. About 5 minutes later we hear a bunch of racket coming from the backyard, go outside to investigate, and my friend, drunk off his butt, is starting a lawnmower and trying to mow the lawn at some random's house at 1 AM. That's some discipline right there. After reading a bunch of these, this is quite mellow, but I saw a very drunk girl down a cup half full of dip spit when she was wasted, did not even bat an eye, and stumbled away as if she had just chugged a beer. Edit. For all those asking, dip spit is when you put dip, or smokeless tobacco, Skoal is a popular brand, in your mouth and then spit into a cup or bottle for a period of time. The resulting cup of spit is called dip spit. I threw up a little in my mouth reading that. Thank you, internet stranger. I'm gonna go brush my teeth. Carried a drunk friend on his 18th to his bed. His mum started to pull his pants off cause they had spew on them and he yelled, Suck me beautiful. A very drunk girl went around pretending she was about to make out with various guys, but instead she would lean in and at the last minute take a bite of their faces, then giggle and run away. She would do it hard. Multiple guys had deep bite marks and one was bleeding. That's weird. A guy with a swastika tattoo on his face was coked up out of his mind. Haymakers his friend's girlfriend and begins to beat her up. Party thrower grabs his katana sword out of the trunk of his car and hits the abuser in the back of the knees while shirtless and in -degree weather. Fight over. Edit. Just to clear things up. Yes, it was with a sword. Yes, with blade. No legs were chopped off. And the tattoo had been covered by band-aid that came off during the fight. It was a Halloween party. A girl dressed in her 80s prom dress dry humping a shirtless guy in leather pants. She ends up barfing in his face, into his wide open mouth. I unfortunately watched the whole thing happen. A mother-daughter team, if you could call it that. Every weekend I used to party with some of the guys at a welding shop I worked at. I was the only female welder there, so they'd invite me to parties all the time. I kept it platonic so it wasn't weird at work. One weekend one of my better friends walks out of his room with a fairly decent chick. They'd obviously just had sex. The girl starts waving at me, signaling me to come into the room to join. I wasn't into it. As I turned around I realized she was waving at the much older lady behind me. It was a weird. Later that night I talked to the mother and she said her and her daughter always did this, and they had more of a friendship instead of a parental relationship. The Gilmore Girls always did have a thing for welders. Edit. I have no idea what this is a reference to. I've never seen the show. This one guy on the college football team was like face down butt up to this random girl. She immediately said yes and she fricked him face down butt up in the middle of a large crowd of people. Your wording is ambiguous with regards to who was butt up face down. Please don't fix it. This probably isn't what you were looking for, but man, I went to this birthday party in 3rd grade. The kids' parents organized these games that we would all play. We had all sorts of stations, like soccer, basketball, football toss through a tire, etc. Before we started, they said that the birthday boy needed to change into his costume. Okay, well, while the kid went inside with his dad, the mom told the rest of us to make sure we let him win at all the games since it was his birthday. Okay, lady, like we're going to let that happen. I mean, we tried at first, but we're competitive little kids. We tried to let him score the most points, whatever, but then came the football toss. We each got 10 throws. Whoever gets the most through wins. Since he was the birthday boy, he got to choose when to throw and he chose to go last. Okay, well, we start throwing the ball through the tire and at this point, we weren't thinking we had to let him win since it wasn't everyone going at once. Some guy ended up throwing it through the tire 9 times out of 10. Peyton Manning here. Then birthday boy goes up. He missed his first 2 so he was mathematically eliminated. I guess he didn't realize it, but his parents told him that those were just warm up. He finally makes one so they restart the counter. But the guy can't throw well. They tell him he can move up. But at this point we were counting for him like future auditors and the final tally was 4. He made 4 out of 10. He knew he didn't win. He pouted. He screamed at the kid who won. But really, all of us beat his score except so why he chose to yell at Peyton Manning, I don't know. He kicked him and then ran into the house. Then his parents called Peyton Manning's parents and told them to pick him up even though the party was scheduled to go on for 1 more hour. Conversely, I wasn't allowed to win any of the games at my own party. I remember one year we were playing the game where everyone has a balloon tied to their ankle and you need to be the last person not to have it popped. And my dad came in and popped my balloon once I'd made it to the final 4. Still hurts. Sadly the story is secondhand. But last year at a New Year's party after things started to die down a little there's 6 people left awake. They went to go chill in someone's room so they didn't bother all the passed out drunks. The guy's room whom it was wanted to go to bed and was trying to get the others out but they just wouldn't leave. So they kept casually talking and about 15 minutes later one of the girls just pulls her skirt up. Guy pulls his pants down and the girl just hops up on that dong in the middle of talking. They continue to have sex while participating in the conversation. The girl even makes a comment about how she is trying to keep quiet so it doesn't get awkward, as if it wasn't already awkward. Easily the weirdest crap that's gone down at a party I was at that I know of, and a kid woke up with a brand on his butt the next day. Man, I was at a wedding in Mexico and I walk into the bathroom to see two guys at the only two urinals, only to watch a third player enter and begin pee in player 2's urinal. Dude turns around and accidentally pisses on third player. First player bewildered and realized everyone is peeing on each of the pukes. All three men are peeing and puking on each other. They clean up and bit laugh and go right back outside and hit on girls. My cousin knocks on the door at 10 PM and asks me if I wanna take him to her party. Sure, why not? Turns out he needs my pickup to get the 2 pony kegs. We stop at a liquor store and buy about $200 worth of hard alcohol as well. It's a big house on a hill on a small farm. No neighbors for about a mile. Get there and it's wild and loud and crazy. People throwing lawn furniture into the pool. People dancing naked. It turns out my cousin is running the entire party. 100 people easy, and all of them meeting and greeting my cousin like he's a king. After a bit, I see him open the fridge, open the butter container and pour half a glass of vodka in it. By now we are pretty drunk and I realize I don't know who lives at this house. So where's the owner? Dunno. Why are we partying here? Guy owes me money. A pregnant girl with a blunt in one hand and a bottle in the other, while twerking. That's when I decided it was time to leave. Time to call MTV. A drunk guy puked into his 21st birthday cake and ate it. Another drunk guy puked on the kitchen floor. Another dude slipped in the puke, realized it was puke, and puked. Edit. The first one is a separate occasion from the others. Saw the guy vomit into a mason jar. Get yelled at by the owner of the home for ruining a good mason jar. Then guy 1 decides to smash homeowner's face in with said mason jar. Crushed one orbital bone and got large hunks of glass and puke all over his bloody face. I promptly left. At a party my senior year, some dumbass threw a gas can full of gas on the huge bonfire we had. It exploded and sent a few girls to the hospital with, I believe, at least 2nd-degree burns. My friend is drunk in the kitchen and asks me if he can have a girl shave his face. I say okay and I give him the shaving cream and razor and I leave the kitchen. I come back 5 minutes later and there is shaving cream all over the dining table and he is rubbing his face on the table. Then later, he breaks my lamp while yelling I want attention. Edit. I got him the shaving supplies from my bathroom. I don't keep them in my kitchen. No kiwis were involved. At my 20th birthday party a guy puked in the jungle juice, but we didn't find out until the next day. All night everybody was drinking it and eating the fruit at the bottom. Edit. Thanks for the gold, guys. I would love to say it was worth it. Oh my freaking god. The first time I ate magic mushrooms was at this huge house party in high school. A group of us stumbled on this frog and were immediately rendered speechless by nature's beauty. Hey, a frog is really beautiful when you're tripping balls. Don't judge me, but that idyllic moment turned horrifying when some guy jumped through the crowd, screaming, and smashed the frog with his foot. That crap fricked me up. For real. Shrooming at a party sounds like a nightmare. When I was in grade 10, a girl had a train run on her by probably half the dudes at the party. She was encouraging every dude in the room to frick her. For the rest of her high school career her nickname was Garbage. See, I think she regretted that night. Stories like these are why my gangbang fantasy remains fantasy. House party in 2006. Way too many people there. Everyone is having a great time. Random guy who nobody invited pulls out some H and injects in the kitchen. Teenager minds blown. Countless. College party circa 2006. Living room was badass. We had set up a fog machine, strobe lights, and a sweet sound system. We worked pretty hard to make that room pretty sweet, so when I saw everybody in the kitchen and outside I asked them what the frick was up. They advised me not to go into the living room, that it was contaminated and no man's land. I was so decided to go against their advice. As I'm walking through the hallway to the living room, through the haze I see what looks like two people making out. No big deal. As I got closer I could smell musty, nasty pee and realized it was a very, very large girl on top of a very skinny guy. They weren't having sex but she was screaming and grinding the frick out of him. Our house was meant for parties and getting fricked up, so I just had a laugh and left them to it. Went outside and we joked about it. Looked through the window and caught an HD look at what was going on. The skinny guy had his entire fist in her pee, basically punching her insides, and then whoosh, she squirted what must have been a full glass of pee juice all over his chest and face. I've seen a fuckload of pee in my day but nothing will ever compare to it. Her pee freaking burst like a water balloon. A few of my buddies saw it at the exact moment I did and our faces went white. The girl emerged and left without saying a word, but the guy slowly walked to his car, freaking soaked. His hair was sodden through and shirt pants wet like he fell into a pool. Plus the pee stink was the worst I'd ever encountered. We immediately confronted him before he left, telling him how fricked up it was he did that at our place. And then he showed us his fist. His fist, the one that had been lodged up her skis, was encrusted with this white slime that was drying out in the night air. He said her pee was oozing this milky crap all down his arm. One of the guys started throwing up at the sight of it. We ended up giving the couch to grateful neighbors. Little did they know what was soaked into the left side. We never saw her again. TLDR. Fat girl gets fisted in living room. Squirts like a water park and covers friend's fist with white odoriferous slime. That may be the most disgusting thing I've read in my life. A couple killed their cat. In their words, not verbatim. They wanted to show everyone how fricked up they were. It started with the boyfriend and his girlfriend seemed to be turned on. They didn't just snap its neck but fricking slowly murdered that crap. Long story short, I freaked the frick out. Called the cops and never hung out with a single person there again. Edit. Frick, I forgot I made a throwaway. How the heck did I get all these dang points from a throwaway but my real account gets no love? I attended a college friend's wedding who had moved to Fayetteville, Arkansas. I had a great time over the extended weekend, but it was the first and only time I have ever seen a bride, in her gown, do a keg stand only for that to be followed up by the bride's grandmother. Granny made it past her 10 count. Oh, I got one for the record books. My friend used to drink way too much. Well, one Friday night started just like any other. A few beers, followed a few shots, followed by him smashing a handle of crap vodka. As the night progressed, so did his CUs. At one point during this wonderful evening, my friend decides he needs to set up a spotlight, one of those halogen auto lights you find in the garage, in the middle of his front yard. Once set up and on, he runs back in the house, strips off his clothes, grabs the vacuum cleaner from the living room and stumbles back out the door in his birthday suit. We follow him outside. He plugs the vacuum cleaner and vacuums his front yard naked. At 3 am. 3 am in a residential suburbia. A half hour later he discovers he's too cold for this and goes back inside. Another time he took the trash bag out of the trash can full of course, turned all 4 burners on the stove on and threw the bag of trash on it. Both these incidents happened at his house. TLDR. My friend was out of control. This was one of the most fricked up things I have seen at a party. I was at an 18th birthday party many years ago and it came that time of the night when speeches were to be given. Everyone gathered around on the patio area to listen to the parents talk about how proud they are of their little girl. While this was happening, I was standing at the back of the crowd trying to control one of my friends who had just polished off a bottle of vodka. Not a bad effort for a small 16-year-old kid. When it became clear that he was going to be very sick, I tried to get him to come with me away from the crowd and into the back garden so his violent sounds of his regurgitation didn't distract from the heartfelt speeches that were being given only meters away. Despite my best efforts, my friend was not to be reasoned with and unexpectedly bolted through the crowd and into the small clearing on the patio in front of the speakers. At this point the speech stopped, as all attention was on my friend who was standing in the middle of the party and was the focus of attention. There was a momentary pause as he stopped and surveyed his surroundings before he proceeded to projectile vomit all over the patio in front of the birthday girl and her parents. I, to this day, have never seen so much vomit come out of one person. It continued for several spurts, before my friend then slipped over and was lying in his own vomit which now covered the entire patio. He then began to roll around and start laughing, clearly oblivious to what he was doing and his surroundings. At this stage the birthday girl was crying and the parents were more than irate as this drunken child had just ruined their daughter's birthday. With the crowd now cheering my idiot friend's antics, the parents now set about trying to remove him from this pool of vomit and return normality to the proceedings. I will add now that both parents were morbidly obese, to the point that breathing was likely a chore for both of them. In their attempt to grab my slippery friend, both parents slipped over in the vomit. As I said, there was a ridiculous amount of it, and were not able to regain their footing. The act of getting up off the ground, which I imagine was already a struggle for these people, now proved impossible in the slippery predicament they were in. They then proceeded to wriggle and squirm for what seemed like several minutes trying to stand up. All the while my friend is laughing and rubbing his vomit on them. The crowd at this point was out of control, cheering this completely absurd behavior, all the while the birthday girl is crying in the corner. After a few minutes passed, my friend realized his luck would soon be up and got up and sprinted out of the party, leaving two very upset and embarrassed parents lying and squirming in a giant puddle of his vomit. There was a momentary pause as he stopped and surveyed his surroundings. That's what life is about. At a destroy the house party a friend in year 11 was having in his father's investment property that was being demolished for a development. But things got a little rowdy, and beyond the internal walls and doors and windows getting the treatment, the bathrooms were getting worked over, tiles being smashed with cricket bats, sinks being pulled off walls, and of course toilets being kicked in and rendered useless. This of course means only one functioning toilet in a house filled with 150 drunken frisky teenagers, which means the longest line is for the loo. So I'm trying to get into the games room with the air hockey table, plinko and skee ball machines. This was a sick party, so I can't retrieve my jacket and bag. The door is jammed. I can't get in, so I do what any drunk teenager at a destroy the house party does. I kick in the adjacent wall and try to get in that way. I get through enough of the wall to see what's going on inside, and there's a girl wedging the door closed while her friend is crapping in the skee ball machine. So I do what any reasonable young man does in that situation. I book it and tell my mates. Friend who had the party got hit with a cleaning fee. Girl who took the dump got hit with a nasty label. I got hit with a gag reflex when I played skee ball later in life. Had a Halloween party at my friend's house this year. My friend's roommate, at the time, poisoned my friend's dog with fake ice. The dog is mostly okay now, but just a little mentally unstable. The now ex-roommate got kicked out and has a court date. Edit. Fixed some ambiguous grammar. Edit 2. Fixed the science portion. Don't ask me why they add water to antifreeze. I don't use the stuff, and it sounds really freaking pointless. Edit 3. 99.999% chance it wasn't antifreeze. In any event, the schnauzer got really fricked up. I've seen a girl's friends leave her drunk on a couch at a party because no one wanted to watch her. She was super drunk and ended up blowing a very sober guy who laughed at her as he rammed his dong down her throat in front of everyone in the area. Once her friends saw, they ran over to the couch, laughing, and pulled her off of the guy. Edit. Changed passed out to drunk. She was not unconscious. She was just drunk as heck. Her friends are buttholes and someone needed to punch dude in the dong. As unlikely as this sounds, I swear it's 100% the truth. In a high school, a classmate had her end of the year graduation party and there were tons of people at his house. One particular guy was obviously doing his best to get his drunk on and decided to lay down on the floor for some reason. While laying down there, he started looking up girls' dresses as they passed by him. One girl noticed this and decided to put on a little show for him. She started dancing over his head and hiking her skirt up. He was visibly enjoying himself. Anyway, she started squatting lower and lower over his face when she peeled off her panties. The hotness factor went up by about 2000%. She continued to go lower and lower and then she crap on his face. She stood up, picked up her panties and walked off to the bathroom. The guy puked all over the living room as he bolted for the kitchen to clean up. Tame in comparison to some of these posts, but this one stayed with me. My best buddy in HS, the only HS friend I'm still in touch with, was the lady killer back in school. There was an especially cute girl with curly blonde hair who everyone wanted to bone, and he got his chance at a party. On the way there he drank a 40 off street. Idiot saint. To you kids out there, After he had killed another 40 at the party, cute curly blonde took him to a back bedroom to bone. Shortly thereafter there's a huge scream. Some people go into the bedroom to check out. WTF happened. My friend is half naked and passed out on the floor. Girl is sobbing hysterically and locked herself in the bathroom. Bed is covered in sick. He told me later that he got her naked on the bed, was taking off his clothes and just lost it and blew at least 40 ounces of warm malt liquor and stomach acid chowder all over this poor girl's naked body. Shock, laughter, revulsion and oh frick, who's gonna clean this crap up commotion ensued. Not exactly fricked up, but two friends decided to have a drunken but friendly fist fight. Both got bloodied up a bit and then hugged it out afterward. No hard feelings at all between the two of them, but it was incredibly uncomfortable for me to watch. Why? Because it was between a guy and a girl. In high school, there was a regular party house that me and my friends would go to get drunk. One night in particular, a lot of people we only somewhat knew showed up. This one guy in particular was incredibly drunk when he arrived and proceeded to drink a crap ton more. Then he disappeared. About an hour later, I heard a scream. Myself and most of the party ran to where the scream came from to find it belonged to a horrified person who had opened a door to that guy in a spare bedroom, fingering a dog's butthole and attempting to make it with it. The most fricked up part was that he paused, looked at us, and then continued to do it. Needless to say, he was banned from any future parties at that house. TLDR. Drunk dude makes out with a dog and fingers its butthole. What's the nastiest thing you've seen at a party? I was at a house party years ago, and there were about 10 people crammed into a very small bedroom. A 16-year-old girl does her first beer bong, with room temperature Milwaukee's best, for non-Americans, one of the pissiest of pissy US beers. She managed to finish it, wide-eyed and shaking her head in denial of what we could all see coming. She proceeds to projectile vomit every drop of liquid she'd consumed, but for some unholy reason kept thrashing her head around as if to deny it or make it not happen. I've never seen so much throw up in my entire life, and since she was more or less in one corner of the room, I don't think there was a single person in there that didn't get hit by the explosion. My best friend, whose room it was, took the brunt of it. The initial blast took the poor sucker directly in the face. I managed to curl up into a terrified little ball and only had the side of my arm and leg hit. It was just the worst puke ever. This kid had to take at least 2 deep breaths in between puke geysers. Blugga blugga blug. Inhale. Blugga lababa. Inhale. Bladger dribble. Cow 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 sob sob. It was an amazing, horrible thing to witness. Like I imagine a poison gas attack would be. Everyone reacted as though someone had dropped a grenade. Some tried to flee, literally climbing over one another and jamming up in the doorway trying to escape at the same time. Some, like myself, just sort of hit the deck and prayed they would be spared. It was a goddamn war zone of bath afterwards. Furniture had to be thrown away. A GameCube was destroyed. Afterwards, this poor girl just looks around in horror at what she'd done and breaks down into the most choking sobs I've ever seen. It took us a little while to feel bad for her, but, of course, it could have happened to anyone. A GameCube was destroyed. Ha 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 ha. My friend did a backflip on a trampoline while at a party and pee drunk. Ended up clipping his chin on the metal part of the trampoline and opening it up. There was a bit of blood but not that much, however he definitely needed stitches in his chin. So a friend who is an army medic thought it'd be a good idea to stitch said friend's chin up with a sewing needle and some thread. He actually did a pretty neat job of it, as the friend who whacked his chin didn't want to leave the party. All was going well until a person who had arrived to the party after the incident thought the person had a piece of thread on his chin and decided to yank it off, not knowing we had stitched his chin. Had to pick the lock to the bathroom because this girl had not responded for some time. Coming in, we find her sleeping over the toilet, puke in the bowl. Her pants were down, but not the thong, and she had managed to crap herself, splitting the crap right down the middle. Classic log splitter. Someone crapping in a kettle and then switching it on. Room cleared. Can someone find the post where the guy threw up chunks of fruit in the punch bowl, and people ate the chunks all night? That's got to be one of the worst. Girl gets wasted, proceeds to get butt-ass naked and finger herself on the couch for all of the party to see. Made for an awkward internship environment for the rest of the summer. One of my guy friends chugged 151 straight from the bottle for 10 seconds. He then proceeded to projectile vomit on everyone in a 3-foot radius exorcist style. Dang. I chugged half a fifth of Cuervo straight from the bottle on New Year's. I woke up in the hospital and apparently I had thrown a jar of nacho cheese and chips around my living room. Some guy was just walking around naked carrying a poodle. He was erect. It's called presenting. We were having a party at my apartment. Last day, frick that place kind of party. And there were like 8 people out on our little balcony smoking cigarettes. And there was one chick holding her beer. And she seemed pretty fricked up. But pretty much everyone was. But she was standing right in the middle of the balcony. Puts the beer in her hand up to her lips and proceeds to vomit. She thinks the bottle will catch the vomit. But instead it was like putting your thumb over the end of a hose and just sprinkled the entire freaking balcony. I mean top to bottom everyone out there was just covered. I did this once. Was wandering around Isla Vista in Santa Barbara on Halloween my freshman year, going into the various house parties that were happening. We walked into one random house to check it out and it was pretty crowded. I noticed some space over near the kitchen and headed through the crowd. As soon as I turned the corner into the room, however, I was greeted by what I could only describe in the few seconds I saw it as a heavier set girl dressed as what I could only guess was some sort of health care worker, getting plowed up against the wall by a small ginger kid in a 300 costume with a pile of puke on the floor beneath them. Got the frick out of that party real quick. Classic Isla Vista. Freshman year of college, 2011. A guy ate a digested piece of poop corn from a toilet bowl for box of wine. We called him the Colonel, until he dropped out less than a month into the semester. In high school, I was at a party and there was a Chinese girl there who must have been about 4 feet 9 inches. She was wasted. I remember standing next to her and looking at her and she had turned a color that I can't even describe. She then got down on all fours and threw up everywhere. The most horrid looking puke I'd ever seen. All over my shoes and the carpet. Everyone went dead silent. For some reason. I asked her what did you eat and she looked up at me from the floor. Eyes bloodshot, puke dribbling down her face. And said, Baja fresh. And then threw up all over again. Chartreuse. The color was chartreuse. I watched my best friend's dad put a $20 bill in his daughter's pants while she was pretending to strip. He encouraged her to take it off and watched as she made out with dudes. Oh, and to add to it, while the sister was hot, think Kirby Smulders only at 16, while the dad was a big biker dude who looked like he would have rode with the Sons of Anarchy. Chick who spent the evening bragging about her family and significant time talking about her son's special needs. Out of nowhere spread eagle on the kitchen floor and was eaten out, with 4 guys in line to do the same. No, her husband wasn't there. No, it wasn't that kind of party. There weren't even that many people there and she wasn't even drunk. She was a co-worker of our friends and she had joined us after the bar closed. Friend lived nearby. Awkward party. Clearly it was that kind of party. Some dude was bet $50 to slam a cup that was 1 stroke too full of chew spit, cigarette butts and 2 shots of vodka. He got 2 quick swigs in before projectile vomit erupted across the kitchen. The crowd roared. He got the $50 though, so that's cool. My friend's ex came to crash his housewarming party at his new apartment. At some point she got incredibly drunk and took a crap in the elevator. My friend had long passed out, so I took a bag, picked it up and tossed in the garbage chute. I could feel the warmth through the plastic. Sigh. In the morning after someone let her know what she did, she asked me if it was at least cute. She wanted to know if her poop was cute. What? I was at a party in high school at a girl's house and no one there was showing the house any respect. Holes in the walls, broken crap, stolen crap, the works. Anyway, this one guy decides to take a crap on a cookie sheet, put it in the oven, and bake it at 350. Incredible. Never in my life have I seen or smelled anything quite like that. In college my friends and I at some point decided buying airsoft pellet guns was a good idea. We'd get drunk, then play a fun game called Ricochet Roulette. You weren't allowed to directly shoot the person. Rather, you had to bounce your shot off the wall into the person. We'd play this stupid game in the sunken living room in a house full of people. One night my friend Pete was very drunk and insisted we play. Invariably someone would always get pee and directly shoot someone else in retaliation. So to curb this, we created a rule by which everyone else playing would shoot the offender. Anyway, not too long into play, Pete shoots someone, and we all shoot him. He storms off like a child, then a few minutes later comes rushing back into the room with 2 airsoft guns. There's a Mexican standoff moment and partygoers are yelling at Pete, "It's not worth it, man. Walk away." Out of nowhere Pete raises his guns in the air and screams there was a firefight and starts shooting up into the air. This would have been hilarious. We were all fans of Boondock Saints, except he was standing under the light fixture. Glass shower down on him and the lights go out. Everyone is like WTF Pete and starts to move around trying to get some light in the room. Some flips on the adjacent kitchen light and Pete is passed out on a bed of broken glass. Not injured by the light, just used his last remaining energy to frick things up. Part is over. I walk home. I swing by the next afternoon and all the roommates are cleaning up. Pete walks up to me and says, "Hey, this is actual. You wouldn't happen to know what happened to the light last night, do you?" Implying I had done it. Freaking Pete. Fortunately there were some people that saw the whole thing, so I was able to set him straight real quick. Any sort of porta potty at any music festival. The worst times are early in the morning, right before the sun comes up. I was actually relieved to open each one and only see a mountain of crap overflowing above the top of the toilet seat. Versus all of that mess and my worst nightmare, which was finding someone in their drug frenzy hanging out, or even worse, having sex in one of these horrific places. I just began waiting until 8 AM to use them immediately after the cleaning trucks came by and I was always first in line. Add LSD to this equation and you're gonna have a bad time. This is definitely not the response you were expecting. But, one time, when I was 9 or so, my parents hired this reptile guy to host my birthday party. He brought this huge lizard and it projectile pooped all over our living room. Not really a party, but I saw 2 guys whip out their dongs in the middle of the mosh and pee on each other at an Eminem concert a couple weeks ago. You people seem alright. Your friends, however, are freaking disgusting. Friends. I got a lap dance from a M-mouthed, obese, energy drink chugging chick on my 21st birthday. I turned in, and as I drifted off to sleep, crash, she belly flopped onto and subsequently broke down through the slats of my IKEA bed. She was wasted, and she just rolled around on the disabled furniture repeating "AHM gonna steamroll ya. AHM gonna steamroll your" sounds like something some B-rate supervillain would say. It was one of my first college parties and a guy on my floor made the mistake of talking to a football player's girlfriend while the guy was just a few feet away. He immediately came over and started screaming at the guy and shoving him. So he just ran off out of the party rather than getting his ass beat or thrown out, and assuming it was over everyone just goes back to partying until a few minutes later when he returns and taps the big linebacker on the shoulder, and as soon as he turns around slaps him right across the face. What we did not realize at first was that he had ran off and masturbated into his hand before coming back. No pun intended. The football player is pretty much stunned and stands there long enough for the guy to run off one final time. The surprise on that football player's CM smeared face still disgusts and amazes me. Comes lap. Piddle scoot. It started as just a normal high school party and turned into the most legendary night of all. There was this gross girl that was blacked out on rum and 4 locusts, and was found in another room by herself, sitting butt-ass naked on a hardwood floor in a large-sized puddle of urine. Once everyone had gathered there to see the spectacle, she tried to scoot towards the bathroom door, smearing pee and a few dingleberries across the wood floor. Once she made it into the bathroom, the door closed and a loud glass broke from inside. The kid whose parents owned the house went in and found her laying in another pile of pee, now mixed in with blood from the broken glass that mildly sliced her ankle, and the alcohol caught up to her stomach and she was now puking everywhere. The grossest part was dragging her downstairs and throwing her in the shower. It took like 5 people trading off in between holding your puke down from the stench. I fed her croutons in a drunken attempt to sober her up, and once she washed all the puke, pee, and blood out of her hair and regained a sense of reality, she was super embarrassed. Apparently she did the same thing again a few months later. I fed her croutons in a drunken attempt to sober her up. I love drunken attempts to sober people up. Had a New Year's Eve party in a hotel with a bunch of my friends. This was going into 2000, so we felt the need to party extra hard. We had a guy come in, take shots with every person there, pounded vodka out of the bottle. 10 minutes pass and he is in the bathroom puking and peeing on himself while people throw tortilla chips at him, telling him he needs something in his stomach to combat the vomiting. Only one person knew this guy, never saw him again, but Doug the Drunk's legend lives on in my circle of friends. It all happened in the span of 15 minutes. Same thing happened to me kind of. I don't remember his name. It could have been Doug. Was standing out on a balcony at this party. Guy drives up, asks which door to go through, comes up, drinks like 10 beers, introduces himself to everyone, then pieces out 20 minutes later. No one knew who the frick he was. What is the most NSW thing you have seen at an office gathering or party? Went as a date to a lawyer girl's work party. Open bar, phenomenal food. Everything was amazing except the smell periodically through the night. Turns out one of the younger interns found out he never got the job opening. So he crap himself and drank all night, acting as if nothing ever happened. He sure showed them. My assistant gave a BJ to one of my bosses at a bus stop while her boyfriend smoked cigars with our co-workers. His suspicions were confirmed when his girlfriend showed up with breath that smelled like a Christmas bonus. We bought our boss hot Santa lingerie as a gag gift. She tried it on in front of us and proceeded to do a striptease dance all the while screaming out how her husband was going to love this. She's 54. That's how you assert dominance. When I was a teenager I volunteered to DD at a fancy dinner for the local RCMP detachment. Police had some bigwigs from provincial headquarters and such. I think it was like the station's 50th anniversary or something similar. Jesus Christ, one cop got on stage with the band and started singing. Was really good actually. One female cop dancing on a table broke it and went face first into the floor. Kept on partying once the blood stopped. There was a young new cop that year. Ripped good looking guy. So this guy was getting panties thrown at him left, right and center. Driving him and his current date home they fricked in the back seat. He slipped me $20 and told me I saw nothing. I saw everything. Next trip the cop and his wife were drunk but nothing outrageous. But as they were getting out he casually tossed what ended up being a pair of thong panties into the front seat and saying something I didn't quite hear. I assumed they were from the previous couple. And my favorite was driving one of the higher ranking police officers in my province back to his hotel and he just fell over as I rounded a curve. Like a tree. Unconscious. Had to get hotel staff to help drag him out. Now imagine all this with Mounties dressed in their red serge. And these are just the things I saw. My buddies who were DDing have similar tales. Hard to take a cop seriously when he's giving you a ticket for speeding in a car you watched him finger a girl's butt in. There's a lot of Canadian in the post. Went out for drinks with co-workers after service. It was a lunch-focused restaurant, and by the end of the night, one of our cashiers decided to lactate on me from across the table. Last year's work Christmas party. One woman, known for overdrinking, overdrank. She came to sit at the table I was at and proceeded to sit down. Where their WSS no chair, straight on her butt. Later that night she was grinding on one of the boss's girlfriends and apparently tried to talk the boss and his girl into a three-way. She is still confused why she didn't get the promotion she was going for at the time. That would have granted her a company credit card and had her taking clients out to dinners. Company credit card and taking clients out for dinner might sound awesome, but all I'm hearing is working in your off time and more paperwork. Work party. One guy took a crap in the toilet followed by grabbing the vacuum cleaner and sucking it all up. That had to damage the poor filter. First Christmas party at a tech startup. Go to the bathroom towards the end of the night. Realize mid-p that the sounds coming from the stall next mine are the CTO and his wife going at it. Step out of the stall and the CEO and some sales guys are doing lines. CEO sees me and shouts, "Hey, it's Jared. My name isn't Jared." He called me Jared for about 6 months after that until I pulled him aside and corrected him one day. Fun times. our company Christmas party had a tequila ice luge. One of our class A drivers got so wasted he was doing flips on the dance floor and juggling Corona bottles. Then he went and sat on a 19-year-old girl's lap and her mom went ballistic. He was kicked out and proceeded to drive himself home. What a guy. Christmas party. Married HR woman had an orgy with 5 of the warehouse workers. All still work there. HR woman is still married. This sounds more like a gangbang. I saw a woman squirt champagne from her tea into the mouth of the woman who juicy inserted a champagne bottle into said tea. I worked as a P editor at the time, so it was appropriate to the situation. Co-worker threw his desk chair out of a 4-story window after having a few too many. Dang, that's a big window. Didn't witness this one but heard that this happened just a few months before I was hired. We had a wine tasting for the managers with just some cheese, minor hors d'oeuvres, etc. One particular manager got completely sloshed on wine and got super flirty with another manager from a different department who was significantly younger and good looking. At some point, this young lady put some scented lotion on her hands. Smelling this, the drunk manager came over to her and pulled his dong out and asked her to put some lotion on there too. Right in the middle of the room and tasting. I heard he was gone instantly. He was recently found out to currently be a tour guide on a duck boat and a bad one at that. Saw a drunk dude getting a handy under the table from another drunk dude. Both of them were supposedly straight when not drunk. Brodger. Used to work for a big bank. We had a little potluck for Christmas, and long story short, about 2 hours later, someone crapped in the bathroom and smeared it literally, and I mean literally, all over the bathroom stalls, the wall, the stall door handle, the toilet sensor, freaking everywhere. It looked like a XXL Hershey bar stepped on an IED. We never did quite catch the elusive poop handle bandit. Legend says he's still out there, ravaging the latrines of financial institutions to this day. We never did quite catch the elusive poop handle bandit. Please, at least give the poop artist the correct title. We can only assume they were not banditing anything and made a mural with their own droppings. Worked in a warehouse for a while. We had regular awards nights where we'd all get fricked up and hand out stupid awards like Driver of the Year for the person who had the worst forklift accident, or who crashed her work car. Other things of note. 1. Doing lines with the boss off his desk every party. 2. Married co-workers banging in the car park. 3. The mentally handicapped and very drunk cleaner getting wrapped in packing tape by 3 guys. 4. Having forklift races in the aisles of the warehouse. Forklifts being driven by guys who are plastered. 5. Using forklifts to lift each other to the roof of the warehouse. I don't miss my old job, but dang, I miss the parties. I love the Dundies. My husband's old company decided that they weren't going to invite spouses to the Christmas party. Okay, I dropped him off so he could drink freely. No big deal. After he called me to pick him up, I ended up waiting in my car for nearly half an hour, watching some of his male co-workers through the window getting lap dances from some female co-workers. There's likely a reason the bosses decided to not invite spouses. It means that they didn't have to bring their own spouses either and they could let loose, for lack of a better term. Karaoke started with 2 assistants, both women, doing a ballad together, in rapid succession, on the stage, and with plenty of drinks between. The following things happened. Those 2 women sing a few songs while clutching each other and giggling the entire time. Some less than wholesome dancing together to a George Michael song. Remaining on the stage, one of them sits in a rolling chair while the other serenades, gives a lap dance to her to Santa Baby. At this point, another woman in the office decides it's best to throw some cold water on this party by cutting off the karaoke and play a Christmas music CD. First song is All I Want for Christmas Is You. The 2 women turn this into what seems like the perfect song to vivacious slogans to much caressing and grinding happening. They are finally broken up once they start making out and light groping each other while trying to hide behind a Santa hat that one of them is holding up, covering their faces. And then, oh boy, it was at our annual awards dinner where they award Department of the Year, Employee of the Year, a couple other things for people who'd been there a long time. A woman from my department showed up with a bottle of vodka in her purse. The meal was free, the booze wasn't, and it was expensive. so people at the table were getting sodas, free, and mixing at the table. It happened every year. The venue mostly overlooked it. Woman who brought the bottle drank quite a lot of it. I mean, probably half of it herself over the course of the evening. When the dancing started later on, she was boombead. She was wearing this strappy dress that she kept falling out of. At one point she was pulling it up, too, to show off her thong. At some point she lost said thong and was sitting on the stage with her skirt pushed up to her hips and showing off everything. She got fired. Classic Meredith. I went to a customer's holiday party. It was a bit of a good old boy company, so it was at the shop and mostly drinking and grilling with funny awards. It was mandatory and had a dress code, so all these guys were as cleaned up as they could get, but in clothes that didn't fit right anymore ever and whatnot. Also a sausage fest since women are rare in industry and most if the guys were bachelors. The guys drank like it was water in the desert and decided to move it to a local bar they frequent. Well, that bar was hosting the holiday party for a lab and was a total clam bake until we showed up. You mix drunk nerdy girls and drunk manly men and you end up with a lot of finger banging and it ain't discreet. It was a match made in heaven. Absolutely no fallout. The female bartender was egging them on and the boss men had gone to a different bar. They often ran into those girls at lunch there, but there were no repeat performances. I was all over that holiday clam bake until I realized it was not a party with lots of seafood. A coworker once stood on a swivelly chair. This is definitely one of the more dangerous ones. I know our risk manager would have something to say about someone doing this. A group of girls pre-gamed the Christmas party pretty hard. They show up wearing prom dresses and 20 minutes later, the most smashed if the girls is out back with her prom dress hiked up above her waist, panties at her knees, bent over taking it from some dude. This set the tone for the rest of the night. Marriages were unintentionally put on hold so drunken co-workers could gain carnal knowledge of each other. Many walks of shame the following day. Worked at Polish retirement home. Christmas party every year is held in the residence party room. Approximately 30 late 40s early 50s Polish women pounded back the vodka like they shouldn't have been alive afterwards. Many insane things each year. Always some passed out. Always some of them competed to get the attention of the one and only male, the crazy drunk maintenance man. And always at least one person ended up crying. Once they all happened at once. Nurses got blasted. Maintenance dude got blasted. Nurses had him sit with them at one of the tables. They played some weird butt drinking game as best I could tell. They would make out with him, then take a shot after. Then they all cheer. Eventually I hear chanting and look over. One of the girls is on her knees now, quite sure she blowing him. Except the chanting sounds more like yelling. Look closer, she doesn't seem to be moving. One of the other women is moving to. I wasn't sure. Help the other one suck him off? Nope. She grabs the girl under the shoulders and pulls her off the guy's dong and I hear horrible coughing and the girl lands on her back. The guy's dong is at full mast as he bursts out crying. The guy starts muttering something about how he almost killed her. He's bawling. Dong is still out and waving around. The girl woman is on the floor and coughing but one of the other nurses tries to give her mouth to mouth. Far as I could tell I think the head giver passed out sucking the guy and choked on his dong but was out so cold she was just gonna die. So someone tries to do CPR on the now conscious woman and Ms. Dick Sucker doesn't want or need it. So they start fighting wrestling on the ground and the chanting starts again. Dude is still crying with his dong out but now he's standing over them yelling don't fight over me. Now this is all during the day and there are other workers on shift cause the place doesn't shut down just cause of the party. So in burst a couple of sober nurses to help. Someone had radioed them for help cause of the person choking on dong. They burst in and yell what the frick and then the dude with his dong out turns around and faces them and both scream and run out of the room. Good times. WTF. When I was in my early 20s, I was working at a restaurant with the world's nicest and most innocent group of guys. One weekend, we threw a bachelor party for one of the waiters who was marrying his HS sweetheart. Beer, strippers at someone's house. Crazy. We all hooted and hollered when the strippers tore off their clothes and walked around the room to each guy. We whistled and giggled when the bachelor got a personal show with whipped cream. Good times. As the girls were ending the show, they asked if anyone had any requests before they packed up. One of the cooks, who was at least 20 years older than most of us, walked over and had a serious 5-minute conversation with the girls. He then turned to us and said that we all had to cough up $300 if we wanted to see something special. Without hesitation, we handed the money to the girls and sat back in anticipation for what was sure to be a lovely show. He laid down on the floor and both girls pee and crap on him for the next 5 minutes. Guys were gagging. The bachelor started crying. I screamed in terror. One guy walked over to them and yelled, "Why? Why?" It was as if the devil himself, in mere seconds, had snatched the innocent souls of 15 naive idiots. The show ended in silence. The girls freshened up and left with their ride. The cook slid on his jacket over his soiled clothes, walked out into the cold night and never returned for his shifts. This is amazing. Our payroll manager got blackout drunk at a Christmas party a few years ago and started insulting people and telling them that they weren't worth how much they were getting paid, while quoting the actual salaries. She was fired the next day, but didn't even remember what she'd done. We had a Mardi Gras themed holiday party. One guy decided to bring his saxophone and be a jazz man. Normal enough, right? Well, he also thought that to be a jazz man, he needed to show up in blackface. Luckily, this is rural Wisconsin and no one at the company was black, so we all just got really drunk and told him he's an idiot. Luckily, this is rural Wisconsin and no one at the company was black. Honestly not sure if this makes it better or worse. Finally, I have a great one for this. So I has just started at my current company 2 and a bit years ago at the end of October, and another new girl had started a month later. She was a bit shy but quite a big girl. So with her working here for about 3 weeks and me still being the new guy, along comes the Christmas party hosted at quite a nice location nearby, the kind of do where multiple companies buy a table for their employees then send them off to cause havoc. The night of the Christmas party comes and she joins some co-workers for pre-drinks, and they turn up pretty drunk already with more drinks on the table and even more in their handbags. About 2 hours into the night, this girl is not shy anymore. She is mid-20s, but decides she needs the loo, so middle of the floor surrounded by co-workers and tables, cranks down her tights and pisses on the floor, literally spraying everywhere, no shame at all. When people try and ask her what the frick she's doing, she starts trying to fight them until the one poor designated senior team leader sternly drags her away and tells her to go home now. 2 years later and she's still working here, and we had our Christmas party last weekend and she causes another scene taking a bottle of wine in her purse into the swanky restaurant we were in. And when she starts mouthing off me and my big drunken mouth apparently yelled, "Why don't you just go pee on the floor?" which caused her to storm off. I regret nothing, nor totally remember it. There was a co-worker who arrived in a giant baby diaper with nothing else on except sneakers, and someone smeared chocolate frosting on his diaper at some point. Not super wild, but this was a dry party. I worked at Macca's and we had a work party. Some of the crew volunteered to run the night shift while the rest of us went 10-pin bowling and drank scrumpies. I was a manager, so I got to see the camera footage the next day. It was of me walking around the restaurant and kitchen with my pants down, shaping my balls to look like a brain and making people look at my taut scrot. There were also brown eyes and squashed rats, which is where you press your dong and balls up against the glass. That was me in the drive-through window. I woke up horrified and knew I was in trouble. There was a small fallout. I miraculously didn't get fired. No one formally complained. My punishment was to wash car windows as they went through drive-through on my day off and donate the tips to the Ronald McDonald House charity. I'm North American and I must assume you are Australian. When I used to work for a large corporate law firm, a guy and a girl who both worked in the accounts team got in an argument. One thing led to another and the girl threw her glass of red wine over his white shirt. Without missing a beat, he just grabbed her by the throat and started choking her. This was just off the side of the dance floor, in front of 300 plus staff. Went to bar for after party. Dude was playing pool with girls, was getting killed. Whipped his balls out and put out them on that table. That sounds like a quick way to lose any chance at having children. A bunch of people from the office decided to get together and head to a foam party. One of the girls got white girl wasted and stripped down to nothing but her panties and danced on one of the tables. Made for an interesting night. Thanksgiving at my shop, we all drew hand turkeys on the whiteboard. My co-worker, who is also my friend before we started working there, trying to make love to his GF in a river while the whole company was around, along with their significant others and family. PS. This was on a canoe day trip. My co-worker basically diddled herself in the middle of my boss's wedding reception, in front of most of my boss's extended family. Good times. First year at the company, married CEO all over an employee pretty much in front of the whole company. Awkward AF. Both really drunk. The fact that they didn't start making out in front of everyone was a Christmas miracle. My Christmas party is on Friday. Guess I should just stick to beer. I stuck to beer for a Christmas party once. Proceeded to vomit out of my boss window while he drove me home. Trick is to say I should stick to X amount of beers plus. I joined a company and was hired by the new boss. Most of the tenured employees were against new boss and his new hires. Every conversation was dependent on who was present and how private it was. Bad environment. Cue the team builder. The majority of the team had worked together for a while and partied hard. The new people, including management, had no idea how bad of an idea a bar setting was. We all got a meal and 2 drinks on the company's dime. People were asking right away if they could trade their meal for more booze. After the budget was spent, you could see the managers trying to be fun and participate and just accept that it was a shit show in the making. They excused themselves and left. I was new and didn't wanna ride the sinking ship, but I stayed for a while. The crew was great and fun. They obviously had a work relationship, and the bar setting brought out the intimacies that never had an opportunity to blossom completely. 2 people ended up hooking up. A bunch of people smoked herb in a car, and the crazy thing was the girl showed everyone her fake tea to everyone at the bar. There was a stronger bond after that. The management didn't last, but I did. Better management came in after that and cleaned house. But that team builder was the most ridiculous work thing I've ever been to. Saw tea. Looks like fake tea are the real hero here. All 30 of us ended up on top of a mountain at sunrise, naked and drunk. We then went for breakfast and back to work. CEO slapped my butt in front of my boyfriend and kissed a co-worker in front of her husband. I was the one who started giving him head in the middle of the party. It's okay though, we're still together to this day. That is one lucky maintenance man. What is the most ridiculous thing you have seen at a party? We threw a party that got way out of hand and too many people showed up. I go in my living room and a girl is in the couch petting a dog. I ask whose dog is this, she says the people who live here. I reply I live here. This isn't our dog. A stray dog had been walking by and noticed a party happening and just walked inside and got on the couch and was being pet all night by drunk people. Some jackass did 14 jello shots in the span of an hour thinking they weren't all that strong. Then that jackass decided to puke in the kitchen sink and all over the front porch. The vomit was this nasty, congealed mix of vodka, jello, and beer. Then that jackass left the party and walked home with only one shoe, no phone, and missing his driver's license. That jackass was me. Walked into my bathroom to find my friend, who is a dwarf, blowing his load on the birthday girl's face. He had a bigger dong than I expected. Big house party many years ago and we notice a guy going through the fridge. As we're watching him from across the room, he grabbed a full bottle of Italian dressing and chugged the whole thing. He walked out like it was completely normal behavior. Drugs are bad. A drunk guy in a full gorilla costume sitting on a couch outside sees a drunk guy in a full banana costume riding by on rollerblades. They both immediately stop and turn towards each other, and without a single word spoken, charge full speed at each other and begin wrestling. About a minute later, both get up, winded, and the banana guy rolls off into the sunset, never to be seen again. Arrived late to a HS party. Walk up the driveway to a chair being thrown out an upper floor window. Walk into a split entry. Dudes are upstairs holding potted plants, dropping them onto the heads of anyone going downstairs. Girl whose parents owned the house is passed out. I go up. Friend hands me a beer. Don't even get a sip before cops are everywhere. Ran out back. Buddy hid the beer in a pile of firewood. Walk around front. Cop checks me out, but I am sober and had no booze on me. I drove my buddy's car. We went for pancakes. After we ate, we went back to get the beer. Someone had taken an axe and cut the deck off of the house. We found our beer and hauled butt. Monday morning, There was a huge investigation into who was at the party, trying to figure out who did the damage. 1990 was a simpler time. I've seen someone uninstall the sink of a bathroom at a house party back in high school. They brought their own tools and took the time doing so. 3 guys tag teaming a 40-year-old overweight woman who was married with children, and she was the manager at the local Domino's. I can't stop laughing at the thought of tag teaming WWE style. Shortly after arriving at a party, the sensitive guy with the acoustic guitar shows up. 15 minutes later someone took the guitar and smashed him over the head with it, creating a large gash that bled profusely. The attacker then proceeded to run off into the night with the guitar and was never apprehended. It wasn't a good night for the musician. I guess someone wasn't a fan of Wonderwall. Guy starts hooking up with a girl. He asks his roommate for condoms. This guy's about to lose his virginity to this girl. Everyone's happy for him. He goes into a room and starts going at it. One of his friends busts open the door and asks the girl if she wants a third. First guy's screaming no. Girl says yes. So this guy's first time, he's having to share with another guy. At some point, a third guy enters. The entire party stops and everyone's just watching these guys rail this girl. Eventually the first guy drops out and just sits down and watches while the other 2 guys bang the first girl he's ever made love to. Felt bad for him. Wow, jerk friends. Half the partygoers gathered on the roof, ceremonially destroying a 4-featuring tall statue chandelier thing. They threw it off the roof and then everyone in the backyard either took a piece to commemorate the event or further destroyed the pieces of the statue. At another party some guy set off a firework in an empty beer bottle and held it while it went off. Blood and glass everywhere. From what I heard, the guy was found an hour later passed out in the front yard clutching his hand. I went with my girlfriend and her friends to what was later revealed to me as a gay frat house. My girlfriend went to the bathroom for a while and a bunch of dudes hit on me. I felt special. Nice guys. Your girlfriend? Come on, we're leaving you. But these guys are nice. They say I have kind eyes. Someone I know spent 2 hours trying to put a pumpkin in someone's mailbox. He wasn't just pushing it in, he started punching it. Couldn't believe the stamina on that person. It sounds boring compared to the stories here, but it was one of the funniest things I've ever watched. Of course everyone spent the first 25 minutes trying to get him to stop, but after we gave up and just watched, it became hilarious. You've heard of strip poker? We were playing strip Red Rover. We were all in our 30s. Sent one poor girl to the hospital with a busted knee. This is something I would like to see but would never want to participate in. I was sitting on the roof and a guy said he wanted to dive through the window to get back into the house so he would look like James Bond. He ran to the window and dove right into a closed window. Cut his arm pretty bad and he just said, "Oh crap, I thought it was open. I should stop doing self-awareness." Kid smoking a catnip joint. The house owner was also selling rolls of toilet paper to the guests if they had to use the bathroom. I was at a house party where this guy called Nate was sleeping on a carpet. Eventually he somewhat woke up, said, "Name, Nate, codename, unknown," puked on the carpet and lied back down, straight into his vomit. He then fell asleep again. Probably the girl with the 4-year-old son who still breastfed him. She said she could squirt milk across the room, then proceeded to show us. I will forever know her as lactating Tracy. Invited to a party by a furry. We did know that she was a furry. We didn't know that it was a party for furries. We get there and there's a guy getting a tail butt plug put into his butt in the middle of the floor, inches from people who aren't paying attention to it at all. Those people were playing Magic the Gathering. The people in the backyard were playing with a high-power laser identifying stars. We didn't stay long. Some dude thought it is okay to throw up on my best friend Kat during the party. Kat was actually kind of cool with it. My friend wasn't. At least it wasn't your ex pooping on your cat. I remember someone heard some cops at the front door and decided to jump out the window leading to the backyard to get away. Probably should have made sure the window was open first. From what was to be just a noise complaint turned into an bill and paying for a new window. A party I was at in college was busted by the cops, and one of the girls panicked because she already had 2 drinking tickets. She jumped out a bedroom window, landing at the feet of one of the cops. I thought butt chugging was just a joke from some frat bro movie I'd never seen. Nope. People do it, voluntarily, who aren't pledges or rookies or in any way being hazed. I learned about butt chugging from Steve-O on the second Jackass movie. Someone pouring wash soap on the floor in front of the back door. Sick dude sat on a lazy boy sipping margaritas and watching people slip and fall. Arm mugs and brain injuries. I miss college. A totally uninterested guy sitting on a chair reading a paper and drinking a can of beer while a very drunk couple were making love in a bed a few feet away from him. He kept trying to talk to them about funny stuff he was reading and they kept shouting at him to frick off. As you can imagine, I only saw a few seconds of this and heard more about it later. The imagery of this is hilarious. This was ridiculous but honestly ridiculously cool. This dude showed up to a big house party of like 125 of us with his service dog. Not just any service dog though. A giant butt Great Dane with a makeshift army pack thrown over him that carried beers around for people at the party. He brought me a beer or two. What a good dog. Definitely watched my friend feed the dog at least 5 hamburger patties at the end of the night in our drunken haze. There are service dogs and then there are service dogs. Girl masturbating with a beer bottle on the host's little sister's bed. Something yeast infection. Friend had a party in high school and walked in on a guy pulling his pants up quickly after clearly attempting to crap in his cat's litter box. God, George Clooney is such a dong. A girl fell through a ceiling at a house party when I was in college. That was pretty wild. I was once at a big indoor techno concert in Spain. Imagine this place was packed, good vibes, people dancing and having a good time. We're having a good time too. Suddenly, we all felt small drops of liquid on our legs. We stopped to look around, and we see this drugged up dude pee all over the dance floor. And behold, an hour later we see the same dude from distance being dragged out while lying on the floor for doing the same thing again. I swear people do the most fricked up things under influence. My buddy was throwing a New Year's party and it was pretty wild. Some people he didn't really know were their friends of friends, that sort of thing. A dude and a girl he didn't know went into his bedroom and locked the door. He was not having it. He bangs on the door and the guy yells frick off. My buddy's a pretty mild-mannered guy, but without a second's hesitation he takes a step back and kicks the door wide open. We pulled them out and walked them out the front door. He replaced the door frame the next day. I always lock my bedroom door before I throw a party. Back in high school, we went to a junior house party as seniors. There was a junior football player who was hitting on one of the senior football player's girlfriends while he was out back in the pool. When the senior kid came back, his girlfriend told him what happened. Everyone overheard and started yelling fight fight fight. The junior kid heard all the commotion and came running over to see what happened, and all the people at the party pushed him into the center of the group and made a classic fight circle around him. He started crying instantly when he saw the senior boy and his girlfriend walk up and got on his knees and started kissing the senior kid's feet. Everyone stopped yelling fight and the entire house went silent as everyone was confused what the heck just took place. I couldn't tell you what went through the senior kid's head, but he started laughing and walked away and everyone had a WTF look on their face and then went back to the party like nothing ever happened. This kid's already humiliated himself. If I fight him I'll just look like an butthole, and if he beats me it'll be even worse. One of my friends pulled down his pants, slipped a condom on and just started taking a wank in the living room. At least he was safe. Never know where that hand has been. This one redhead girl would always take too many shots and wind up stripping down naked and fricking somebody on their car outside. Every time. Saw a guy snorting coke on a dorm room floor. Someone said something funny and he laughed, spraying a cloud of coke. He started licking the carpet. When I was in college I was in a fraternity. At some point we started partying with some international students because we met some of them at a campus event. 90% of them were Brazilian. So, I was one of the sober bros watching the door talking with one of these Brazilian guys, and a chick came up the stairs, and without even saying anything, she grabbed his hand and dragged him into our little coat supply closet next to the door. About 10 minutes and some uncomfortable sounds later, they both come out and he gives me a wink. She continues downstairs and the guy and I resume talking. Not even 5 minutes later a completely different chick comes up and does the exact same thing to this guy. I thought this was hilarious, but I was also slightly jealous of this guy's apparent affinity with women. Girl probably planned it, told her friend about it, rinse and repeat. Two guys that I believed were straight were very much naked together in a bathroom. Maybe they were comparing ancient Greek warrior poses. Someone snorting lines of speed off another dude's abs. Was at a party when I worked at a ski resort in New Zealand where there were 4 naked girls on top of a table in just ski boots dancing and kicking beers in every which direction. Oh, and some guy literally strapped into a snowboard to crowd surf through the entirety of a packed house party. Ski life. Best life. The rules are different on the mountain. Girl wanted to make a revenge vid to send to her parents. So she sat in the middle of the room on all fours and let any guy frick her while she filmed it. Sorority girls are crazy. Girl got super drunk at party, so we put her at the toilet. Come back 10 minutes later and there's crap, pee and puke flooding in the bathroom floors. I guess after that she got it all over the carpet outside the bathroom and the owners of the house had to get new carpet. We called her the party pooper after that. Not a party but a college story. My buddy was in his dorm hallways with another friend painting something for a freshman class they were in. This guy walks up to them clearly blacked out of his mind and asks if they were freshmen. They obviously say yes since they were in a freshman dorm. The other guy just says welcome to college, picks up their can of paint and starts drinking it, walks away without saying anything and they never saw him again. The legends are true. I was at a frat party at UCLA, nothing crazy until about 3 in the morning. Downstairs the DJ was still blaring music, so I did was all drunk teenagers would do and followed the music. As I walked downstairs I saw about a dozen people standing in a circle. When I finally made it downstairs to see what all the people were standing around, I saw that there were 2 people just making love in the middle of the dance floor. It was really awkward, like reverse cowgirl. The people making love knew that other people were watching. I'm not sure how long it continued on, but the funniest part was the DJ was shining a laser on the dude's butthole the whole time. I didn't stick around that long after that. Standing in bathroom line with a friend. She asks to borrow my chapstick. As she's uncapping it, she still has a drink in her hand. Cap comes off a little hard. She accidentally throws her drink back over her shoulder, all over the chick behind her, who freaks out, demanding to know who did that. Friend turns around, says oh my god, someone spilled a drink on you, and uses the situation to bring other girl into the bathroom and clean her up. This defusing the situation and jumping the line. 300 like. We're sitting on the back deck. It's a warm summer evening. Close friends and friends of friends all sitting in our chairs in a big circle, chatting, drinking, smoking, enjoying ourselves. There are multiple conversations happening and everyone is having a nice time. No one is hammered. Everyone is at that beautiful place we all aim for when we're drinking, and no one has really gone past it yet. My friend and owner of the house stands up and announces, apropos of nothing, that he is going to crap into this ashtray. Picture a normal sized ashtray. He places the ashtray on the ground in the middle of the group and he drops his pants and squats over it. Everyone has gone completely silent. Every eye is transfixed on what is about to happen. The party is collectively holding its breath. In my head I'm asking myself, what happens after this? What kind of party does this become? What happens when someone breaks the freaking code of public decency so adamantly and without any purpose or reason? Where do we go from here? He grunts and groans like he's really trying, and then as abruptly as it started he pulls up his pants and says I can't do it, and everyone starts laughing and jeering and what the frick eyeing him. But for a moment, for that one spectacular moment, we were about to go to a place I've never been before, where a guy crap in an ashtray at party surrounded by friends. For absolutely no other reason than to do it, and I wonder where we'd all be now if he had. One time in early college, we partied all night at a friend's house back home after the end of the semester. Around 4 AM, we could not find one of our friends. He had wandered off, but we knew he couldn't have gone too far as he didn't drive and we were in the middle of the country. Finally found him a few minutes later in the bed snuggled up to the host's grandma. The most eye-opening thing, something I shared here in Ask Reddit quite some time ago, was a college party at a large off-campus apartment. My date at the time and I noticed that the crowd kept getting smaller and smaller, but no one was saying goodbye. We finally observed people going into a bedroom at the end of a hall, so went to check it out. The room was dark, crowded, and just enough light to see all sorts of things going on, and not just couples, but singles from the party doing whatever with whomever. We left as discreetly as possible, but the imagery from that event is hard to forget. Stumbled into a gay bar in NOLA for Mardi Gras, went to take a pee, went the wrong way, and opened up a room with more people freaking than I've even seen in any pee. It was intense. How do you socialize at an event where you know no one? I read once. It's more important to be interested than interesting. Everyone has a story and something you can learn from them, so ask questions and be genuine about it. I've also found some of the best opportunities come when you're most vulnerable. Seconds standing alone may feel like hours, but that one additional second may be the one where someone comes up to you. And when it comes to confidence, fake it till you make it. You're going to do great. I'd just like to point out you got buried by the real Snoop. Try not to worry about forcing yourself to make the moves. The host will probably welcome you and make introductions. People will ask you questions. You will find at least one person with whom you connect for at least casual conversation. Don't pressure yourself to do or say anything. Just try to relax, and if at some point you still feel uncomfortable, just go to the host and say thank you so much for having me, I have to head out, but I had a nice time and see you soon. Then go home and be glad that you went. You might very well meet some new friends to have coffee or do activities with. It's a good opportunity to meet new people, but it doesn't have to be anything, so try to relax. The onus isn't on you to do anything but show up and be polite. PS steps 1 and 2 are perfect and need no modification. P. I hope you go and have fun. Thank you for your thoughtful reply. You know, when I'm thinking rationally, I realize that this is how it works. I know it's what I do when I'm in a group and a new person appears. I try to make them feel welcome. When I imagine myself going into this sort of scenario, though, I just feel exposed. I'll try to remember to think rationally. Thanks again for your encouragement. As someone with social anxiety, I find it helps to know that worst come to worst you can always just excuse yourself and up and leave and no harm done. You would still be proud for trying. And of course, this is well worth remembering. I am in control. I can leave. There's a lot of comfort in that. Things to bring up in conversation. Ask how long they have lived in the neighborhood. Ask where they lived before. Ask about places in the hood that you should know about. Ask about the crime noise situation in the hood. This should get conversation flowing. Remember that everyone has to meet for the first time at some point. Hi, I didn't see anyone saying something similar, so I thought I'd chime in. Please don't show up fashionably late. You know who shows up fashionably late? Most people. You know what that means? If you get there early, that is, arrive right on time. Your host might not appreciate if you get there earlier than the start time. There will be fewer people at the event. So, if you're like me, you'll have an easier time getting to know people when it's a smaller and more manageable group. Once you get there, take the extra time to get to know the hosts and the few people who might have also shown up right on time. Once the party gets into full swing, you'll be comfortable with those people, and you'll feel more confident talking with the guests who arrive later. There is another advantage to doing this. If you show up late, people will have settled into their little conversational groups. While no one will close you out of their group, you might feel more intimidated trying to break into an existing circle, especially if they've had a little while to get to know each other. If you get there on time, you can also offer to help set up for the host. This will also help keep your mind off the initial social anxiety and at the same time give you a chance to get to know the host better. Sorry if this is a bit rambly, but I hope it helps. Good luck. This thought has never occurred to me, but it makes a lot of sense. If the host is still setting up, putting food out, drinks out, you can get a bit of bonding in by helping, which doesn't require a lot of small talk. Food brings people together. Make something and bring it over. To meet new people, hang out by the food and or alcohol. I have found this a really easy way to naturally start conversations with people I don't know. You should just go up, Knock on the door and say, hey, I'm new here. Don't worry about it. I'm sure if they are nice enough to host a community gathering, they can't be that bad a person. Go and enjoy yourself, meet new people and have a good time. It is a nice neighborhood and they emphasize a sense of community. They make the effort to include newcomers. I just have to go. And that's where I get stuck. I remember someone here on Reddit saying that an easy conversation starter when talking with another guy is, so did you blow any crap up when you were a kid? I used it a couple times, and almost everyone has a good story. People like blowing crap up. Damn it, I don't have a story for that one. Note to self, blow something up for party conversation fodder. Ask questions that gets the other person talking. How long have you lived around here? Any good bookstores in the neighborhood? If there is an interesting tree bush flower that is right outside, ask someone if they know the name of it. If you do like to read, ask someone to recommend a book. The trick is to get folks to do most of the talking until you feel a little more comfortable. I wish I could go with you. I have no problem talking to strangers and I like showing shy people that it's not nearly as hard as you imagine. Good luck. Let us know how it went. Do this. Your goal is to get belligerent before even knocking on the door. When it's answered by one of your nice neighbors, look at him/her and slur out, "You don't even freaking know me." That will get him/her to want to know you more and he/she will probably get all of their friends around to know you. Rule 1. Puke upstairs in one of the bedrooms, preferably the master bedroom. That way the hosts know that you consider them family already. But no, honestly, have a couple drinks to loosen up before you head over there and just be social. Okay, now I'm going to laugh when they open the door because I'll be dying to say, "You don't even freaking know me." In fact, I think that line would be spectacular in many social situations. You're interacting with strangers on this website. These people have the shield of anonymity so they could say any heartless thing they feel like. But what are a lot of these comments? Helpful, or at least attempting to be in their own way. Interacting with anonymous strangers online anonymously is different from interacting with a person in person. Here is what I do in these kind of situations. I'm a bit of an introvert myself, but given the right situation I can actually thrive quite well in a social environment. Before you leave, just have your thoughts collected about what to say in conversation when you are engaged. Remember, you'll obviously get asked your name, your age, what you do, how long you've lived here, etc. Be sure to say this is the first gathering you've been to and you just wanted to get to know some people. Go up to the door. This is the hardest part about getting involved in an unfamiliar social situation. It's like telling someone you like them if you aren't sure they like you back. Your heart will be throbbing and your chest will feel like it's going to explode, but you just have to take that first step and knock. Once you've knocked, you'll be over that hurdle and will be in. Go into an area where you can get a drink and maybe some food. Most people will likely be around this area, so loads of people will be talking here. If someone answers the door for you, just say, "Hey, I'm really new here. Could you introduce me to some people?" Bear in mind they might be busy and say no. Don't get put off. Either aim to talk to someone who is also by themselves or go up to a large group. Conversation with someone else who is alone will be really easy as they are likely looking for conversation too. Conversation in big groups is easier because a lot of the time you spend listening, you often find you don't need to talk to make friends. Just listening allows someone to bond with you. You can just try to relax and talk about your life. I've always found that I delve a bit too deep into my life when I meet new people, but just talk about what you've done in your life, your interests, etc. I've often found if conversation is lacking, just start rambling about things you've done. I do a lot of skiing. On first dates, etc. I usually bring that out, and if they've skied too, it's brilliant, and if not, I always ask what it's like. Optional. Get drunk. Not plastered, but you know. Dutch courage. I always talk for days when I'm drunk. I may just print this out and take it with me. It's all excellent advice and very reassuring. Thanks so much for taking the time to share it. I find that the best way to engage with people you don't know is to lead with exactly what you've listed. "Hi, I'm new here." Then start asking questions. If you don't want to talk, ask people questions and let them do all the work. Come up with a half dozen stock questions. How long have you lived in the neighborhood? What do you do for a living? Do you have any hobbies? What are the people here like? Which house is yours? Do people have regular get-togethers, etc.? Then ask those of everyone you talk to. They'll ask you a question. Answer them. Then ask them another question. Source: recovered introvert. That isn't introversion. It's social anxiety. Introversion is a disposition to be alone. You prefer to be alone because you just plain enjoy being alone most of the time. With social anxiety you have a specific fear of certain social situations and spend time alone. Not because you enjoy it, but because you don't want the extreme discomfort from the alternative. They aren't mutually exclusive though. Anyway, go talk to a therapist. They are trained professionals. You wouldn't go on Ask Reddit if you snapped your ankle in half. You'd go to a doctor. Same thing here. Or at the very least check out our social anxiety. I would have a couple of drinks beforehand to loosen myself up, then just go. They will probably have some kind of games to play, beanbags, horseshoes, or something that you can do that will help you to socialize with people while not having to have a direct conversation. I would start with that and hope for the best. Beware though, there is a fine line between Dutch courage and Dutch dickhead. Make a sweet alias. I'm Dr. Tabernacle and I study everything from the ice caps to the majestic Ortanga fish off the coast of Sweden. So who made these hammerils? OP, my ex-girlfriend has debilitating social anxiety. She used to imagine herself going through an event before the actual event to make it easier for her. I used to help. I think this exercise could help you overcome your anxiety so you can make friends with your neighbors. Imagine yourself walking up to the door. Scope the address out ahead of time. I'd suggest just driving by it. Imagine ringing the doorbell and the host warmly greeting you after you introduce yourself. I'm sure the host will be more than happy enthused that you've chosen to accept their invitation. Then they'll probably take you around the party meeting and introduce you to the other neighbors. Don't worry about memorizing names. You'll learn them naturally later. You may already know some of them. Say nice to meet you, and maybe shake their hands. Imagine yourself just hanging out at the event and enjoying their conversations. It's okay if you don't have anything to contribute. People like to hear themselves talk anyways. You can just hang out for the entire event. Imagine this. Now imagine the end of the event where people are saying goodbye and leaving. Again, no one expects you to memorize 10 plus names, so it was good meeting you, you guys, is perfectly fine. Now imagine yourself returning safely to your home and reflecting back on the event. Imagine how smooth and easy it was. You can help yourself feel more prepared by memorizing a joke or two. These two jokes have dual purposes. Firstly, they allow you a quick go-to response to almost any situation in case you get nervous and freeze up on the spot. Just spew out a pre-planned joke as sort of a social get-out-of-jail-free card. Secondly, having the two jokes ready will help give you a feeling of safety. Similar to the old monsters can't get me under my blankets thing people tell themselves to comfort themselves. So scope out the area. Imagine yourself going through the event. And imagine any neighbors you already know being there to make you feel more comfortable. Sorry for formatting spelling, I typed this all out on my phone. If you want any more help or have questions or anything at all, feel free to inbox me. Best wishes, internet friend. I know you've gotten a lot of responses, and almost all of them are good. I just wanted to give you something to think about. Something that I like to think about, that really gives me perspective and sets me at ease. Everyone is fighting their own battles. You only see just the outer layer of most people, the side they are willing to show. But just like you, each person you meet has their ups and downs, wins and losses, anxieties and strengths, and they only see what you show them. They can't see your insecurities, or how you spend your alone time. They don't know about all of your past embarrassments, or any of your thoughts. You know when you do something stupid, and think about it over and over again, when you're alone in your bed, just going over all of the crappy moments of your life. They do that too. But when is the last time you thought about an embarrassing moment of someone else? Rarely. And if you do, it's not like you hold it against them. You're not thinking about it when you hang out with them the next time. Most, if not all, people are concerned with themselves. Those moments that seem huge to you are tiny in the story of someone else's life. Try to remember that when you're worried about people judging you, because they're not. So be yourself, and if you can, act confident. In the grand scheme of things, nothing you can do will be that bad. If you frick up, shake it off. Try again. I'm sure there are things that you're interested in, things you can talk about. Do that. You might frick up by talking too much and boring people, or by being too quiet, or by saying something tactless, or by getting wasted and puking in their kitchen. Trust me, it's okay. I've done all of that crap. People forgive and forget. They mostly forget. Just like any sport, game, or skill, you need practice. You have to gain experience, which means messing up. Get that out of the way. Put in the hours freaking up, and soon enough, you'll figure out the rules of socializing. And nobody will remember when you didn't. And if they do, it won't matter because you're not like that anymore. Good luck. Just smile when you're supposed to and look people in the eyes. Nobody cares. Maybe try this. Suggest next month to hold it at your house. You will then get to know everyone. Be busy getting people and having short converse, so there shouldn't be too much awkwardness. Then you now know everyone and from then on you'll have more fun at the other parties. I like to stand in the corner, sipping on a large glass of red wine, or a fine whiskey, head down, mysterious like with my fedora covering my eyes, and a mischievous grin on my face. This makes the ladies go so crazy, they are afraid to talk to me. When people finally work up the courage to come and conversate, or debate if I'm lucky, with me, normally with a line like who the heck are you? Bro, I can finally ease my way into their circle of people and take off my trench coat, letting them know that I'm not much different than they are, other than my high IQ, superior intellectualism, and my amazing facial hair. Once the coat comes off, I roam around, talking to different groups of people, usually asking questions pertaining to anime, books by my favorite atheist authors, or whatever is on the front page of Reddit. Once my bedtime nears, I shake the hands of all of the men that I met, kiss the hands of all of the women I met, and disappear silently through the back. Being mysterious is key once again. I then go home and share of my conquests with my fellow Brinnies on my exclusive message board and my mommy, and fall asleep in my twin size bed. Take note, OP, and you could be living my life. Too funny. Get a bottle of wine in your hand and get going to the party. Knock on the door, introduce yourself and hand over the wine. Float around for a little bit until you realize which group or kind of people you'd like to actually socialize with and then go back to them. I'm sure the fact that you are new to the area will mean that people will show an interest in you too. It won't be a case of you just being on your own around a group of people that already know each other. You need to think positive and believe in yourself. Bring alcohol. I just moved into a new apartment building in a place where I don't know anyone. I now know all of my neighbors because I showed up at their doors with a 6-pack of beer, asking if they want to share a drink. This is still terrifying to do. Every time I do it, I start to second guess myself thinking that maybe the person will turn me away. Then every time I knock they gladly have me in my home for a beer. We exchange names, get to know each other, then I leave after we've both had a drink or two. Just knock on the door and introduce yourself. When you're invited in, comment on how you like the house, or something in particular about the house. When you find yourself not engaged in any conversation, walk over to the largest group of people socializing and sit down and say hi. Now all you have to do is listen to what everyone is saying and chime in when you have a comment or question. If there's really nothing interesting going on at all, put some of the food in your pockets and walk out. Hey, unfortunately I'm not of much help, battling my own dorm-related social anxieties, but as someone else with some pretty crippling social anxiety, especially right now, I just wanted to say, you're not alone. It really gives me comfort to know that I'm not alone, so I was just hoping to pay it forward like that. Good luck. You're 51. At 27 I probably can't tell you anything you don't already know. The best I can tell you is to go and introduce yourself to people, then strike up conversations about subjects which you know well. Make sure you do at least 50% of the listening. Memorize names. A good way to do that is to use the person's name immediately after they give it to you and then use it occasionally during the conversation. On another note, don't waste time. If you see that you don't have much in common with a person or that conversation is being forced, then politely disengage and go find someone else to talk to. When you look around the party, deliberately make eye contact with people and then approach them. Don't walk up behind someone and try to introduce yourself to the back of their head. You have a right to introduce yourself. You're at a party after all. It isn't socially awkward. If you spend some time at a party and realize that it just isn't happening for you, then politely excuse yourself from the party and leave. Assuming you don't have any responsibility to be there, that is. Probably the best advice is this. Realize that like anything else worth doing in life, it takes work to socialize. Some people are going to not like you because of who you are. Some people are going to be indifferent and some people are going to like you. You don't need to make everyone like you. You just need to meet some people that you can see eye to eye with. If you go to an event and it doesn't work out, go to another one, then another one, then another one. The more people you talk to and the more events you go to, the more comfortable you'll feel in those situations and the more likely you'll meet people you can like to be around. Good luck you. Rules for social interaction. 1. Talk about the other person. Everyone's favorite subject is themselves. 2. Ask open-ended questions, such as what do you do for fun or do you like? Insert activity you like. This allows you to find common ground. 3. Listen to the other person's responses and build on them. Continue to be interested in what they are talking about, even if you gotta fake it. Do not just ask random questions without listening to the answers. It's creepy. 4. Talk to everyone who is willing to talk to you. Just because you'd rather chat up the hottie in the other room doesn't mean the loser in front of you isn't hot his BFF. Be nice to everyone. Ignore no one. 5. Be honest, without detail. I'm allergic to cats, not I freaking hate those disease-mongering bastards. Always think of it like this. Have you ever seen someone do something a bit odd then basically immediately pass it off because you did something similar before? Think of that in the reversed manner. Don't be worried that people will judge you harshly for your habits, because chances are they're more forgiving than you. Be confident, be understanding, be open. I was very socially introverted. Now I'm not. One thing which helped me was pretending that I was a different person. Not a totally different person, just a different version of myself. Someone who was much braver, more assertive, louder, etc. Over the past few years I've become that person. It wasn't easy, and it required putting myself into some pretty uncomfortable situations. But it's worked. If I were you, I'd go along and bring something. Some drinks, some chips, or some dip. Use them as a conversation starter. Walk in, and approach the first person who makes eye contact and smiles. You. Hi, I'm new and I've never been to one of the parties here before. Do you know where I should put these drinks, chips, hummus? Them. I think there's some place in the kitchen. You. Great, thanks. Can you show me? I'm. Name. I moved here. Date. Them. I'm. Name. You. So what do you do? Name. Etc. People like to talk about themselves, so at first it's very easy to just ask questions and sound interested in the answers. The other people can do most of the talking while you adjust to the situation and get comfortable. Ask that first person if they can introduce you to some people. That way, if they go off to the bathroom, or leave for some other reason, you're not left standing awkwardly in the corner with no one you know to talk to. It can also help to prepare a mental list of things about yourself that are interesting for use in conversation later. Pets, work, hobbies, etc. I am moving into a new flat next week. They are new builds, so everyone is new. As a 40-year-old whose friends have all moved away or in relationships, I need to meet some new people, but I too am a little shy. This thread has inspired me to do a little get together with my neighbors, so thanks Antisocial. Everyone that meets my sister-in-law's father, Ken, instantly likes him. He is the smoothest person that I've met at interacting with people, whether they are lifelong friends or he just met them. He made me a fan as well after our first meeting, and it left me thinking, how does he do that? Here's what I've learned by observing him in action. 1. Always smile. He seems like a genuinely happy person and he is very quick with a grin. Even if you are a bit of a cynical person, you find yourself smiling along with him at times. 2. Address one person at a time. He's not really a center of attention type of person. He does address the group at times, but generally you'll see him in in-depth conversations with one person at a time. 3. Be engaged and interested in who you are talking to. He always asks questions about what that person is interested in. If it's a caring mother, he asks about her kids, gets their names, and actually remembers them. Then he asks to see pictures. Most people try to avoid the parade of pictures given by a parent, but he walks headfirst into it and seems genuinely interested. He'll ask questions about the pictures and laugh at some of the kid-related humor. The next time he meets that person, he'll actually remember it and make a comment like, "How did Ava's volleyball camp go? That sounds like a blast. She had a ball, I bet." I've seen these mothers gush, as not only did he remember them, but he remembered their conversation and truly listened and seemed to care. 4. Keep the conversation centered on who you are talking to. For every one statement about himself, he seems to draw out 3 or 4 from you. After all, most people's favorite topic is themselves. I find that most people just wait for their turn to talk, and he sets up the other person's turn almost like a wingman. He'll say setup like, "That's great. What did you do next?" or "That's hilarious. Then what happened?" He's pretty selfless in conversations. 5. Keep the interactions rather brief. He'll do a topic or 2, then he'll graciously move on. At this point, everyone seems to be awaiting their turn to talk with him. You won't seem clingy and overstay your conversational welcome either. He generally has a few different conversations with each person throughout the night. 6. Ask questions. If you haven't noticed, he asks a lot of questions. This shows that he is interested and keeps the other person talking. Don't interrogate the other person, but a few active listening and open-ended questions gets people talking. I'm sure he has other methods as well, but these are the ones that stick out to me. Good luck. TL. Doctor. Some social interaction tips I picked up from observing a social butterfly. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.